Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. It is FPC Radio Live. It's Tuesday, August 8th. And, technically, the real first week of NFL preseason gets going here this week as all these teams are going to be in action. Finally get to see some football for all 30 other teams that we haven't seen since the Hall of Fame game, which was just the Jets and the Browns. So pretty excited for that, John. But I told you before we got on the air, I got a little bit of a surprise for you because we missed this yesterday. And, well, actually, I put this more on you than me. But yesterday was a pretty big anniversary, John. Do you know what it was?
Yesterday was August 7th. So I know for you, that's what? 4 days after Tom Brady's birthday? Yeah. I mean, is that when he was?
Well, it's a week-long celebration for me.
1977. Is that when he went home from whatever hospital he was?
I relived the first 2 weeks of his life every year from August 3rd.
Well, you've got a manger and all that stuff, right? So, yeah.
Sadly, it's not true. But no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this, John.
And Barnes hits one high. Hits it deep. It is.
All right. Well, the audio was kind of crappy, but I'm assuming you heard that.
Silent film era. I mean, I don't know.
Oh, did you not hear that at all?
I did hear it. No.
Oh, you did.
I did not. My ears work. My eyes.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? Let me.
Why don't you tell me what?
Yeah. Why don't you tell me what this was about? No, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm going to somehow. I'm going to rectify the situation here. Okay, I'm going to do my super producer on the fly duties right now, and I am going to find this this clip that I was going to play, and I'm going to play it because, well, I feel like it's going to I don't know, miss the mark a little bit if I don't play it. So clearly, right now I'm stalling as I try to find the right clip. So, John, can you guess anything else?
Here. I'm a trained radio professional. I'm not sure what 8-7 would be, but 8-8 is Aaron Rodgers' day, right? That's his new number.
Oh, so yeah, that's true. That's true.
8-8.
That's
good sign.
That's very true. So, All right, let's try this here. Let's see if this works this time. Oh no! Whoa, no, that's an ad. We don't want that. I mean, we don't.
They pay, right?
Well, not this one. We're giving them away for free. This is a freebie. So I'm going to mute it as it runs through, and it kind of makes me feel like I should have been logged into my premium YouTube account to avoid all these things.
Your show prep is impeccable.
And Barnes hits one high. Hits it deep.
It is out of here. Yes.
Thank you.
See, was it worth it? Was it worth it?
Absolutely. And I think the only two people that care about that are probably Barry Bonds and I. So,
yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, I don't even know if Barry cares anymore. I think he's probably over it. It was 16 years ago. Yes, when he set the home run record. Broke home run record, then he hit 6 more to set it at 762, and no one cares but the two of us.
No, I care. I care, John.
You do. You're a Bonds guy.
I care. I wouldn't say I'm a Bonds guy. Like, I appreciate, you're a fan. You're, follow the guy around wherever he goes type of fan. That's awesome. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like his impact on the
Snipes and the fan, right? Because I remember when that movie came out, I was managing a softball team, and all the guys were like, "Is that movie about you?"
Well, if only they knew your obsession with LeBron James years later. So,
true. Yeah, maybe there'll be a movie like that come out at some point. With Robert De Niro playing that role as well, although he's 80 now. So
I'm pretty sure they already have a documentary called The Night Stalker on on Netflix. So you might have to find a better, more suitable name. But
thank you for that. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. You're welcome. Well, again, I saw it yesterday, like shortly after we got off the air, which obviously is always the case. It's always, I wish I would have known that was the case. Actually, yesterday was also the anniversary of Brett Favre getting traded to the Jets. So there's some connection there. Yeah. Conditional 4th round pick, John.
The following year, right? Because Bonds set the record, broke the record in 2007, and Favre got traded in 2008. Yeah. And at that point, had he already started texting personal pictures to the reporter or the cheerleader or whoever was receiving his errant text, I'm sure?
I don't know. I'm going to have to refresh my memory on the Brett Favre spectrum from pics of your anatomy to committing fraud. I don't quite know where it falls on the timeline in between his career, but nonetheless, it was around that time. Yeah, you're correct. So,
isn't that the case of a guy who everyone loves though? Like he did that, he committed fraud. Like he held the Packers.
Well, because I feel because he's a good old boy. He's aloof.
Yeah.
He's kind of
Wrangler jeans.
Yeah, Wrangler jeans.
Pickup truck. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So that image is long lasting, but the reality of it is he's done some, or he's been accused of. I mean, he has done some. I mean, again, I'm not going to sit here and dive into the legal issues of retired Brett Favre, but there are things that he has done that have been proven, and there are also some pretty crappy accusations against him. So, anyways,
and a lot of late game interceptions. In
yes, in big games, and partly some that control the course of history, like that Giants 07. 2007. That was quite a year in sports. I'll say that much.
Yeah, especially for a high school that Tom Brady and Barry Bonds went to, not simultaneously. Junipero High School in San Mateo, California. That's pretty good high school when you consider Barry Bonds and Tom Brady went there.
Lynn Swann too. Yeah.
And David Bakhtiari, who, in most other high schools would be the most famous athlete. He's like
forgotten now. It's like who?
Right. Yeah. The guy I insist that Jets are going to trade for at some point.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. What and kind of going back to that real quick thing about that Brett Favre at the time, like everyone kind of knew what his angle was. Like I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, they were they were still eyeing, or they saw the writing on the wall that he wanted to go to Minnesota or whatever. So that's why it was a conditional 4th round pick. Today, though, another anniversary today. See, I'm full of these anniversaries. I don't have a clip for it, though, this time. Clearly, after the struggles of what just happened there, I'm not going to go through and try to find a
Did you get one of those calendars for Christmas, where you flip them? Remember the old ones?
I wish.
Yeah, you flip them and they say this date, 1953.
No, there's some great accounts on Twitter that have some of this stuff, which is good, which is perfect for us because, it helps give us natural topic to discuss on a daily, somewhat semi-daily radio show. And
we're lazy. So
and we're lazy. And it appeals to us being older because a lot of these things are from the past. So it's always good. It's always good to continue to live in that era of time. But this is the anniversary, 1992, John. Gold medal game, the Dream Team, clinching. Yeah. So very, very, very important. August 8th, 8/8.
Was that Lithuania? Did they? I can't remember who they beat in the gold medal game.
Because that's Croatia, right?
It was it Croatia? Oh, was it Tony Kukoc?
Yeah.
Was he okay? And I remember Pippen just shut him down because all people heard about is Kukoc is going to be the second best player when he comes to the Bulls, and Pippen's like, nah. No, he's not. But I
was going to say, what's Scottie Pippen up to now, by the way?
Well, trying to get him on the Pick and Roll NBA podcast because he's got a lot of hate towards Michael Jordan. So,
Well, hey, I don't know if I necessarily blame him, but yeah, it's a
wrong guy to pick a fight with.
Yeah.
Well, that is the last guy to pick a fight with because, everyone loves. Talk about everybody loving an athlete. I was thinking about this the other day. Of all the all-time greats, he's the most beloved. I think he's also feared by people for some reason because he's a sociopath, maybe. Well, but, like Brady and LeBron, they've got a lot of detractors out there. But Jordan is you never say a bad word about the guy because you just feel you're going to get absolutely beat down by someone else.
Well, and look, I mean the time in which Jordan was playing, obviously, it wasn't there weren't cameras all over the place,
right.
Because
thank God for that.
Yeah, thank God. But not that I don't think he would care. He's a guy who just would. He'd be like, okay. So
he'd be Paul Pierce on steroids. Like
yeah,
Paul Pierce is
pretty
going,
much.
Instagram live, at a bachelor party, and then wonders why they get fired by ESPN, which is owned by Disney. Like, when you do something on ESPN like that, they're gonna probably let you go. Unless you're Stephen A. Smith talking about women's buttocks.
Oh, by the way, how do you like Richard Sherman joining Skip as one of the, I guess, permanent co-hosts?
I think it could be interesting for a while, but can they take it to the next level? And, they were talking about that, maybe need to take the summer off because no one wants to work with Skip. And I wonder if that's also behind the scenes. And I know that people that worked on that show loved Shannon. And I know everyone has problems with Shannon and, Patriot Nation because of his disdain for Tom Brady. And he generally supports Bill Belichick, however. But I thought Skip and Shannon was a decent show. I know it was acted out and it's just formulaic. But from what I understand is that Shannon was a really good dude to work for him with. So that maybe Skip isn't that guy. But Richard Sherman could be certainly interesting. I think he'd be a wonderful debater. But, I mean, the shtick may get tired soon, which it generally does on those types of shows.
Honestly, I kind of feel like, and I'm kind of glad, I almost feel like these shows are kind of running its course. Like, think about
so?
I think so. I mean, you
think Howard as well, though? Because Howard's a little bit different. He's the hot take guy by himself.
He's an every take guy. He's not a hot take guy. He's an every take guy, meaning he says literally everything. So of course he's going to be right, but he's also it's just the nature of the business where no one cares when you're wrong as long as you're right at least once. That's all people.
So he's the 900 number that gives both sides the Monday Night Football game.
Pretty much.
Claims to have
pretty much
never lost. Yeah. I had a 900 number, by the way, back in the early 90s.
You did?
I did, yeah. And I was like 53%, which is profitable. It was okay. I didn't scam people with, giving out the Patriots and the Dolphins in the game they were playing each other. I didn't do that. I didn't have enough money to attempt that, but didn't make much money on it.
1-900 gravy. I like it. Or at least that's what I'm assuming.
Gravy, yeah, exactly. What the In Club. That's what we called it.
The In Club.
The In Club.
Right. Yeah, well, look, I mean,
30 years ago, don't hold me to that, but I think it was the In Club.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm not here. I know. Look, my memory's poor from that long ago, so I can only imagine. No, it's just I don't know. I don't know if they're running their course, but the height of their popularity, I think, is waning because, like, look, I think some people are getting tired of Stephen A. Smith. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like this, like, how many times can you really get up there and do the whole cowboy shtick? You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, okay, this is day 7,963 of the same, like, thing. And it's just like, okay. And I think he's had some hiccups, in terms of, like, kind of just saying things that were called out on Twitter, over the last few months. So it's like, I think maybe they're like, all right, this revolving cast of debaters. It's like, all right, I think people are just might be getting tired of it. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. My perception is like, not that the ratings are probably plummeting or anything like that, but I think just the general popularity of these shows are starting to kind of cool a little bit.
It's cheap programming. And I know Stephen A. Smith makes like $12 million a year. Skip makes $6.5 million a year. But for the time they fill, it's relatively cheap programming. And I think the only thing with Stephen A. is overexposure, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
First take. Then he's like at the centerpiece of their NBA coverage. He also does a podcast. He also does a radio show. I mean, they're getting the money's worth from Stephen A. Smith. It appears that like 20 hours a day, he's either in front of a camera or behind a microphone. So at some point there's going to be overexposure. People get tired. He may have a slip up.
Well, it's becoming more and more of a singularity show. Like, meaning, and I could be using this completely wrong, but it's becoming about one person. So, we saw this with, like, look, I'm not necessarily. I think Nick Wright plays a role, and he does it. I mean, he does it well if what you value in his role is, you know what I mean? Like, if you value the type of role he plays, then you're going to sit there and say he does it well because he gets people talking, and for that, that's the nature of most of this business now, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it. But the show actually had balance when Chris Carter was on the show. And now
Yeah.
it's kind of just it's a Nick Wright show, and it's Nick Wright going up there, and like I brought it up the other day. I mean, it's absurd, under any kind of justification that you make to put some college quarterback, above like 75% of the NFL's quarterback. It's just silly, and it really gives it takes away any sort of credibility he may have had at that time, and like
what was Broussard's reaction to that, or Kevin Wild? I don't
Well,
watch
I
the
saw
shows
I
anymore,
saw
really,
the I saw the list. Trust me, my ears cannot take any more of the just the torture it is for me personally to watch those shows. But the list, and he does all the graphics, everything like that, and and again,
he likes
that's
pyramids too, right? Maybe he needs a trip to Egypt because he always has like Mahomes on top, and then he'll have
well,
Allen and Burrows
it's
on
just
the next level, and then whoever else.
it's just a simple way of him. I mean, again, it doesn't involve any sort of deep analysis. I mean, he's a hot take guy. You know what I mean? That's what he is. And it is what like again, networks value that stuff because it gets reactions and clicks, and that's ultimately what matters. So in that sense, yes, he does his job well, but from an actual analytical standpoint, and I think that's what people are tiring on, is what I'm saying, is I think there's too much very clear bias or very clear just agendas, whether
He's
it's
literally a Kansas City Chiefs fan, right? So
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and again, you can't and you can't tell him anything different. Mahomes is the greatest thing that's ever walked the face of the earth, and this, that, and the other, and it's like comes up with these ridiculous like you know theories and stories. It's like he's kind of like the Jay Peterman of sports analysts. Like he has these pointless stories and comparisons, and somehow brings it together to be like, oh yeah, well Mahomes is the greatest. Well, no, sorry, not everything's the greatest. Maybe those Himalayan walking shoes might have been comfortable, but I
kind
don't
of
know.
comparing Eli Manning to Hillary Swank,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
next level.
Oh, that was good. That was good. Before we have our guy Jim Behringer is going to be joining us here in just a few minutes. They did put out the top 100 list, and we always kind of chuckle, and it's kind of a silly list because it's really, I don't know, how much stock do you really put into it? Are NFL players really the best judge of ranking every other NFL player? And I know it sounds, how can you question that? It's like, well, no, I mean, think about it. I mean, when you're in an NFL season, you're paying attention to what you're doing, essentially. I mean, yeah, you have some knowledge of what's going on in the outside, but generally you're not like a fan who's like every waking hour of every day is thinking about every stupid little thing, So I think most players will, that's why guys will put Michael Crabtree as their fifth greatest wide receiver of all time. I don't know if you saw that, but hey, to each his own. Anyways, NFL top 100 list, top 10. I'm gonna list them from 10 to 1. Chris Jones, Chiefs; Micah Parsons, Cowboys; Josh Allen, Bills; Tyreek Hill, Dolphins; Joe Burrow, Bengals; Travis Kelce, Chiefs; Nick Bosa, 49ers; Jalen Hurts; Justin Jefferson, and then Patrick Mahomes. So last year,
wow, Jalen Hurts above Joe Burrow.
Yeah, that's a look. I like Jalen Hurts, and I think he very well could, I think, elevate his game even more this year. There's no doubt about it. But I think, look, I still think Joe Burrow is a better quarterback. I'm not gonna argue with putting Mahomes one, certainly now that Tom Brady's gone. I mean, there's no competition there.
If Brady's still the list.
Well, maybe he should have got an honorary listing on this rank. First year it's ever been out that he hasn't been on it. So,
well, it's kind of like Meryl Streep gets nominated for an Oscar. She didn't make a movie last year.
Yeah. Just every year he should just get nominated. But, look, the reality of it is it's like, we're going through a transition period where the, obviously Mahomes is the reigning MVP, Super Bowl champion. Brady's gone. Aaron Rodgers is in New York. We're going to see how that goes. He had a down season last year. Again, I don't have a huge problem with the list. Again, I'd put Joe Burrow above Jalen Hurts. I think that's probably a little much. I like Justin Jefferson. I don't think he's the second best player in the league.
Where's Devontae Adams? Like, you put two receivers above Devontae Adams, and he was playing with not much around him.
You know what? I'll be honest. I'm happy Aaron Donald's not on this list.
Well, he missed a lot of last year.
Yeah, well, I'm so tired of it. It's like the Mike Trout thing, you know? Like, he's just, it's like
Southern California thing.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, Aaron Donald dominates the NFL. It's like, I think he dominates a position that's really a down era. You know what I mean? Like, how many?
I always tell people, did you ever see Reggie White play?
Yeah, exactly.
Reggie White, to me, is the gold standard of defensive lineman. He's at a totally different level than everyone.
It's just, he's great. And there's no doubt about the fact that he's great at what he does. But, like, again, I think he dominates an era that's down across the board. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Like, so I kind of get, so when it gets to this point where people are just casually, oh, he could be like one of the greatest defensive player ever. And I'm, you know, to your point, Reggie White. I mean, you go, Lawrence Taylor. I mean, Deacon Jones. I mean, just on and on and on and on. So, it's. I always kind of chuckle a little bit when I see that, because again, it's just kind of like it's the Mike Trout treatment. So, but anyway, so
I don't like groupthink. I don't think. Both of us are similar in that sense. We don't like groupthink, where it's just understood that Aaron Donald's the greatest defensive player in football. When last year, you know, Nick Bosa was better, Micah Parsons was better. You know, there's two right off the bat. There were a lot of great pass rushers, and I get that he plays the interior of the line because he is very versatile. But you know, I just encourage people who may be younger, go YouTube Reggie White.
Yeah.
Super Bowl against the Patriots, he was throwing people around like they were rag dolls.
Literally, I think that's where that expression came from, actually. So,
I think it was.
But anyway, so we now have the pleasure of welcoming our guy, Mr. Jim Behringer. We haven't had you on. We didn't have you on last week, right? Or was I don't remember. I'm completely lost. My timeline's all screwed up. It's up and down. But you know what it was? I think it was because we finally got something happening with the Erik Karlsson trade. And it was, well, I don't want to say it came out of nowhere, but it kind of gave us a little bit of an excitement in a downtime for the NHL season, off season.
Yeah, I mean, the Erik Karlsson trade it didn't come out of the blue. It was being worked on for a while now, but obviously Friday is when everything like kind of started going, and not only in the NHL world, but the college football world. That was like the big day for a lot of news to break on a random Friday in August. But so things started picking up because Drew O'Connor gets signed heading into arbitration for the Penguins, opens up a buyout window. But Kyle Dubas doesn't really like to use the buyout because it really hurts the team going forward, as we can see with a lot of teams. So he waits till Sunday, gets a third team involved. I always thought if this deal was going to happen, that a third team gets involved. Montreal gets involved. They send out Pitlick and Hoffman, and they receive Casey DeSmith and Jeff Petrie. And by the way, Petrie retention in Pittsburgh is like 25% to get Karlsson to Pittsburgh. So Montreal actually really comes looking good out of this thing because they retain no money on any of the contracts that they sent out. And they get a good goaltender in Casey DeSmith. Now, the Penguins, they get a good defenseman. He's a Norris Trophy winner. It's the second time a reigning Norris Trophy winner has been traded the following year. Doug Harvey was the last guy to do it, Montreal to the Rangers. But to me, yes, it's an improvement. This team's improved. But they're still in the same position they were last year because they still have a goalie issue.
Yeah, well, and and that's the. I think we both, at times throughout the season last year, both remarked, like, I can't believe what we're seeing from Erik Karlsson. I don't think anyone expected over 100 points and having this type of season, for this guy. So, like, how much can you bank on him? I'm not expecting him to match what he did. But, like, what are the expectations here? I feel like this is a huge gamble for a team, like you said, that still has goaltending issues and is very old. I mean, this is one more desperate swing, I think, at trying to win a Stanley Cup with Crosby, Malkin, and the the whole consortment of Penguins greats that have been there for 15 years. But I said yesterday, I'm like, this might turn into the 2002 Lakers. And if anyone remembers what that was, oh my God, Karl Malone, Gary Payton, all these guys, and it just flopped.
Yeah, I mean, look, to me, this is a desperate move. And again, it shows to me that Kyle Dubas would have ran it back in Toronto with the guys that they had, as much as he was talking about, oh, I'm going to change, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Well, he signs Jarry to a little over $5 million extension. He outbid himself for that player who nobody really was going to give that much term and that much money to. You bring in an aging player, still has $10 million on your salary cap. This is the final kick at the can. If they don't win this year, they have to seriously look at moving Evgeny Malkin. And I know he's going to have a tough contract to move. And I know ownership's going to be against it because they're the ones that forced Ron Hextall to sign him because he wanted to move away from Malkin. He was okay with signing Letang, and I think that was the smart move. But Malkin his play is definitely decreased. Yes, everybody points to the one season he came back. Oh, projection is going to be 100 points. But he's definitely takes steps back. In the playoffs, he's not the same player that he once was. He's not the guy that won the Conn Smythe Trophy. You can get under his skin easily. He takes stupid penalties. Jeff Carter's not the same player that he once was. Yes, his contract will come off the books after this year, but everybody's got to realize they're still missing their best scoring winger for a minimum of 12 weeks in Jake Getzel. He may come back in 12 weeks. He may not. Right? They're going to be reevaluated. That's the term they used after ankle surgery. So this team, there's still a lot around this Pittsburgh Penguins team, even though they added a good defenseman who make their power play better, who's improved this team. They still got to finish, but they still have question marks.
Well, look, I mean, this is for Dubas especially. I mean, look, this is your first year in Pittsburgh, so I think he feels like, maybe he would have been a little bit more timid if he stayed in Toronto, because obviously he would have known his job was very much on the line. It was, but if he would have remained for one more year, I'm sure he would have seen the writing on the wall if he didn't perform. But now it's like, look, he's coming in to fix a situation that was bad before, so he can kind of just do this, not with impunity, because if this blows up in their face, obviously he's going to get criticized for it. But I think he feels like maybe he has a little bit more wiggle room if this does fail, because I feel like this is picking red or black, essentially. You know what I mean? Just roll the dice and hope that, your ball lands on the right color. And that's essentially where it is, because if they all remain healthy, if Erik Karlsson's healthy, if you get the best out of Evgeny Malkin, if Jake Guentzel comes back after 12 weeks, if Sidney Crosby is healthy the entire season, well, you have a pretty good team in the East. I don't even know if it would be the best team in the East or the second best team in the East. So this is a huge, in my opinion, a huge gamble that I don't know. I feel like if I'm Kyle Dubas, I'm thinking like, well, even if this fails, this isn't going to be looked at all as all my fault. So let's go for it. Let's give that 5-year deal. Let's do this. Let's do that. So I don't know. Again, I think it's gonna. I don't even know if this moves the needle. Like, they're not better than the Devils. They're not better than the Rangers.
No. You could argue. You could make the argument that they could.
So much better.
Right. The Rangers goaltending's better, but age-wise, they're about the same.
True.
I can see the argument Pittsburgh finished top 3, finishes third in the division ahead of the Rangers. I could see it with this move. They're not better than New Jersey. They're not better than Carolina. Even if Getzel comes back, all these ifs have to happen for this team.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand it's a risk and you're hoping for everything. But again, not only are you battling the teams in your own division, Ottawa's better. Buffalo's better. Detroit's better. Columbus is better. They're back in that group again going into last year where nobody expected the Bruins to do what they did. But they're in that group again. The big question is, okay, who's taking a step back? Boston, Washington, Pittsburgh, are these guys going to miss the playoffs again? Like, who's missing the playoffs out of this group? And I think everybody can agree Washington really never helped themselves. I don't think they're an improved team, so they could be on the outside looking in. Boston, I think people make the argument that Boston and Pittsburgh is probably going to be one of their last years making this playoff push that they've been, mainstays for. Obviously, Pittsburgh missed last year, but with this group, but we know it in Pittsburgh, this could be like their final hurrah. But again, if they make it, are they good enough to get past the first round? Because they haven't won a playoff series in 2018. Since 2018. This isn't 2016-17 where the defense was okay. They put a makeshift defense together in front of two good goaltenders in Matt Murray and Marc-Andre Fleury. The defense is what it is, and the goaltending is what it is. It's average, and that's not a good recipe if you want to make a deep run.
Well,
the playoffs.
You brought up Boston. I mean, look what happened to them in the first round. They got average goaltending and bad defense, and 65 wins out the window. So, and look, I put them right in the same group. Although, like at least with the Bruins, I think there's more potential for more positives to come out of it. I mean, they have a lot of question marks down the middle, no doubt about it, and I think that's ultimately going to be what does them in this season if they don't address that. But I also think they, even taking a step back, losing Bergeron, losing Krejci, all these players, I still think you can argue that they're still a better team than Pittsburgh right now. So even then, it's to me, it's just such a big gamble on Pittsburgh's behalf. But it was either that or blow it up. And if you're looking at it like, do you want the last handful of years of Sidney Crosby's career to be in a rebuild, or do you, and albeit it may be false hope, or do you want them to have hope? And at least they have hope right now, right? Right?
They do have hope right now, but again, this is the same path of what Detroit went on, what Chicago went on. We're hanging on. We're hanging on.
Where they are now.
We're hanging on.
They still haven't recovered.
And look where they are now. Like it's going to take a long time for both of those teams to come back because Detroit wanted to keep their playoff streak alive. Chicago was trying to hang on with Kane and Taves. You're trying to hang on with Malkin, Crosby, Letang, and at a point, this team's going to be bad, and it's going to be real bad.
Well, hey, maybe there's going to be another Connor Bedard coming up.
And somehow Pittsburgh gets him again.
Yeah. How about that?
Yeah.
What exactly. Do you know? Real quick before we go, is there anyone more over right now in wrestling than LA Knight?
Oh, bro, this dude is so over right now. Like, LA Knight is so over right now. Like, this guy, everybody's saying LA Knight. Yeah. This guy is just everything you want in, like, a superstar, main event material, championship material. Look, Sheamus putting him over. Miz is putting him over. Like, it is, like, this guy gets it. He's worked his butt off to get here. And I can't, I can't wait to see what they do with him. So it's gonna be fun to see.
Yeah, and like you can kind of tell what certain guys just have that charisma and just that knack for speaking and playing that role, and I enjoy it quite a bit. I mean, I thought SummerSlam was a fun show. I mean, again, it's funny to watch the discourse. I grew up watching wrestling where it's like you had to go out of your way to find wrestling spoilers, okay? Like you really had to.
Oh yeah, you did. Like you really did. You really really did.
You could go to the website for those spoilers, and you would still have to do a little bit of digging to actually get that information. Now it's like, you got to almost kind of try to avoid Twitter if you at all, or Twitter or X, whatever it's called.
It's called Twitter. Let's be honest. It's still Twitter. Called Twitter. And by the way, let's be honest. As much as everybody complains about Twitter and complains about how they're going to go someplace else, the everybody jumped on board Threads. Everybody jumped on board this. Everybody still goes back to Twitter.
Well, because it's a foundational thing that even a knucklehead like Elon can't necessarily destroy overnight. But we'll see what happens.
Exactly. But like you said, we both grew up in an era where if you wanted spoilers, you had to go dig and find spoilers. You watched the show, you got
Mhm.
pumped up, you got jacked up, you didn't know what was going to happen. If you missed the show on Sunday, you tried not to watch Raw. You watched the replay on Tuesday or whenever. Yeah, it was usually Sunday. Tuesday was replay. Was Tuesday, and you would make sure you didn't like know anything.
Right.
Like now, it's so hard to be around it. I said this. I was at my buddy's house on Saturday. We went old school. We had 2 screens going. We had Collision and SummerSlam on at the same
Nice.
time. I agree. SummerSlam was a fun show. It was a long show. Again, the time constraints, total BS on some of the matches, and the 35-minute main event was just too slow and drawn out. And the rest of the show was good.
Yeah, and look, I mean, obviously, with no, not everyone's going to be happy. I mean, you could, if if you were to look at a certain like segment of wrestling fans, you would think that the company is about ready to collapse, and then you look at their profits and their viewer numbers and ratings and all that, you're like, oh wait, no, never mind. All this complaining is just this thing.
Yeah.
So it's just for us, it's a new era of professional wrestling because again, it's there is so much media involved where part of the spectacle of these shows was kind of the mystery to it. You didn't really know too much about the people involved, the wrestlers. Now it's like, I mean, we know everything about these people. We know everything about everything that's going to happen. And, 6 months from now, we know about all the drama. And it's like part of it's fun, but because it gives us plenty to talk about. But at the same time, it's like kind of wish you could just block that all out. It'd be nice.
Yeah, you do. You wish you could block it all out. Again, there's spoilers out there, plans. Again, this is pro wrestling. It's not written in stone.
Mhm.
Scripts can change, plans can change. It is scripted, so you can change anything you want to change whenever you want. And it's just fun to see and watch. And yes, we could still predict how matches are going to go. We're still going to predict how certain things are going to go. But there's an intrigue still to see where things hand out. And SummerSlam, look, it was good. There are things I like, things I didn't like. All In's going to be the same thing. There's probably things I like, I don't like. But again, it's pro wrestling. It's a great time to be a professional wrestling fan because there's so much out there to watch. If you don't like WWE or AEW, you can watch Impact, there's ROH. There's so much out there that you can get, unlike in the Attitude Era where it was just WCW, ECW, or WWF. That was it. Like that. Those were the things. And ECW was hard to get because they didn't have a mainstream TV. It was really just pay-per-view and stuff. So if you wanted to watch ECW, it was kind of hard to watch ECW, but it was 2 major networks, and now much more out there now.
Well, it's like I remember JR like touting like, "Oh, we're live in 23 countries," and it's like that was such a huge deal at the time.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, I can't believe we're live in this. Now it's like, yeah, we're live on effing Mars. Okay. You got a signal up there, like it's everywhere. So yeah, I mean it is like there's things I like and I mean and dislike. Like I've always been, and again, it feels so weird because like it's been so many years of this now, but I personally feel like the whole championship landscape, especially in WWE, is so just out of whack. You know what I mean? Like I'm a traditionalist. If you look over, well, you can't really see it here, but over my right shoulder, I have the nice winged tip.
That's the best belt. That's the best belt. That's
belt.
why.
Some old school.
That's the best world title. The best Intercontinental title is the original one. Those are the best looking belts. It's when it was pure. It was simple. It was the best. There's the titles now. There's too many of them. They're all meaningless. The records don't mean nothing because they're artificially done. It's not like because I mean Gunther, the Intercontinental title rules is cool, but Roman Reigns is like, dude, the guy barely wrestles. The other champions are wrestling all the time. Like it's just too many belts, and the women's titles are just cursed because whoever wins them, somebody gets hurt. So you should just dump those. Tag title, make one title belt because those are looking like crap. It's just too much, and
Yeah, it's like
You know,
to me, it's like I look at it, I'm like, okay, back in the day, you knew exactly who was. I mean, obviously, you know who the top guy is. You know, it's Roman Reigns, but like, what's the most meaningful title? Well, I don't know. Is it the Universal title? Is it the World title? Is it the
no,
heavyweight title? What is it? I don't know. You know, like some of the and like you
I
said, you brought up the histories of it, and some of these histories are so like intertwined and now mixed. It's like it's kind of meaningless. Where it's like you had the big gold history. The world heavyweight title. The classic. WCW to the whole deal. I don't know where the lineage goes from there anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like it's so just and
that
that's part of my
that's why I wanted it to just be. If you were gonna make one title, it should have just been called the WWE
yeah.
Championship because that was the belt.
Yep. Yeah, no, that and it's that's it. That's it. Have your lower tier championships, but I don't know. So that would be I guess my I guess issue or
You're not Ian. You're not the only one. Trust me.
good,
You
good.
should see it in my wrestling chats with my friends. The one thing is when the new belt. It's somebody writes too many effing belts, and each word is
Yeah.
separate, so you get it.
Under Definitely understood. And I know look, I know some people the other thing I always kind of it was I don't know, it's I again, I understand why they do it now because there's so much that you have to distribute content wise, and you can't just limit yourself to the traditional setup of Monday Night Raw was the big show, Thursday SmackDown at the time, into Friday,
Which was, by the way, which was taped on
which was
Tuesday.
taped on Tuesday. Yep. So
It wasn't live.
yeah,
SmackDown when it came out was not
which
live.
which is crazy to think about that you could go 2 full days. That's why I love those back to back because like if because they'd always do them in kind of close by cities. So like do Raw in Boston or in Providence and then SmackDown in Boston or whatever. That's what happened. The go home shows before Invasion. When Stone Cold was having that dramatic scene in the
Yeah.
pool hall back in the day. But I understand that you can't have the traditional Monday, Thursday setup where it's like you have the big build up to the one pay-per-view. And there was some, I feel like consistency with the storytelling. You know what I mean? And like now
Yeah.
it's so there's so much sometimes where it's like, Raw is different from SmackDown, but then they do the draft and then it instantly becomes meaningless. Like that's the thing that's puzzling to me. Like you want to
It
make these
doesn't matter.
brands separate, but you almost instantly just don't do that. And it's like, then what the hell is the point? Just go back to what it was and
No brand split's meaningless. The draft doesn't matter. They just like to shake things up, but everybody ends up in all the same shows anyway. They do look last night. If you watched Raw, you saw highlights from the Roman Reigns match numerous times. They talked about Cody. Like everything's intertwined, so it doesn't matter.
yeah. So I still love it though.
Right,
I mean, that's the thing.
Exactly. And as you know, everybody knows, and I'm not gonna get into politics here, but everybody knows how I feel. Pro wrestling, politics.
No, I agree. It's
all I'm gonna say.
like,
That's all I'm gonna
there's
say.
a lot of overlap. But Jim, thank you very much, and thank you everyone out there for listening. We usually do hockey talk, but I like doing the little split there, a little hockey, a little wrestling. I like it. I like it.
Absolutely.
So, give us a follow on Twitter at FPC Radio Live. John and I will be back probably Thursday, and we're going to really get ramped up for week 1 of the preseason, the real week 1, because all the other teams are playing. So thank you, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon.
Peace.